Hi everyone, good morning. Today is 27th of December and I welcome you all to the Hindu newspaper analysis discussion. Guys, in this particular video, we take the entire analysis of Hindu newspaper, all articles along with their background we take. Also guys, in this particular session, we cover the other sections also from the other newspapers. For example, Hindustan Times, Indian Express, if there are some relevant articles that would also be taken up. Now guys, let's start with the over analysis of this particular entire session. And also I would like to tell you that notes of this session could be downloaded from Telegram channel. Link for Telegram is given in description box in YouTube, so you can visit the Telegram and from there you can download this entire explainer notes. Now starting up, first of all guys, in every class we start with a GS quotation, and the idea of this particular GS quotation is to give you some substance or to give you some ideas which you can use in your GS paper on your or in your essay paper. So let's take the quotation for today. So we'll take the quotation from Arthur Schopenhauer, who says that compassion is the basis of morality. Compassion is the basis of morality. Now, what do we mean by the word compassion? So compassion means to take steps to reduce the suffering of another person's to reduce the suffering of another person. That is the compassion. For example, you might have seen that during the COVID pandemic, many NGOs, many civil societies, they provided medicines, they provided the oxygen concentrators to people when they were in pain. So this is an act of compassion. Now, it has been provided by Arthur Schopenhauer that morality starts from compassion. Now, guys, often this particular thing comes that whether the compassion is more important or following rules, regulations, or doing duty is more important in ethics. So, Arthur Schopenhauer's view is that compassion is the most important thing in morality and other things are secondary to that. You can use this particular idea in GS paper number 4 ethics. You can use this particular idea in GS paper number 4 ethics. Now, moving on, and let's take the first article. So the first article that we are going to take is this from Hindu, a new economics for inclusive growth. A new economics for inclusive growth. Now guys, in this particular article, we are going to see that what should be the focus of government with respect to economic revival. Now guys, basically why this particular article has been published, because there is recently a book has been released. The name of book is Breaking the Mold. Now this book has been released by Mr. Raghuram Rajan and Rohit Lamba. Mr. Raghuram Rajan, who was former RBI governor. Now in this particular book, they have advocated that in order to bring economic revival in India, we need to focus on export of high end services. Now guys, understand this particular thing, that whenever we talk about an economy, you know that you know this particular thing already, that in an economy there are three broad sectors of an economy. Number one is agriculture sector, then there is manufacturing sector, and then there is a service sector. And we have seen that traditionally the economies, when they are underdeveloped, they are largely involved in agriculture sector, then they transition to manufacturing sector, and from manufacturing sector they transition to service sector. Now let me explain you certain points. Now guys, when we talk about India, just a minute. Fine. Okay. Now, when we talk about India, guys, we know this particular thing, that agriculture sector in the past has played a major role in economy. However, India never saw industrial revolution as it was witnessed in the West. It was witnessed in Japan. Industrial revolution never came in India. And because of that, we found that post agriculture sector, next sector that became the major driver of Indian economy was directly service sector. And today you already might be knowing this particular thing, that more than 60% of India's GDP is contributed by service sector. So never we have seen a matured manufacturing sector. Right now what is happening, India is trying to promote manufacturing sector, and for that particular thing we have come out with multiple schemes. For example, there was Make in India, that was launched earlier. What was the goal of Make in India? Goal of Make in India is to increase the manufacturing sector's contribution in GDP to 25%. Okay, manufacturing sector's contribution in GDP is to be increased to 25%. This was goal of Make in India. Then after Make in India, now we are running ambitious production linked incentive scheme. And under this production linked incentive scheme, for the incremental sales, for the incremental output, we are giving incentive to industries. 4 to 6% of incentive is given, okay, for the incremental output. But we see that still manufacturing sector has not been able to perform well. And the book that I mentioned here, that is Breaking the Mold, in this particular book, suggestion has been given that now, rather than focusing on manufacturing sector and wasting time, we need to switch to high-end services. We need to switch to high-end services. For example, technical services, services in healthcare, software services. Okay, this is something that India should specialize. Now, what has happened? Basically, the article that has been published is actually criticizing this particular kind of a viewpoint. Article says that exactly same thing has been done by India for more than 30 years. Now, in 1990, as the dot-com boom came, as the internet boom came in 1990, India leveraged that particular thing, and since then India has been the supplier of export services largely. But what happened? It brought prosperity, wealth to few people, but large number of people of society, they have been left out. Growth came, but this growth is called as the jobless growth. So it is not an inclusive growth. Only few people became rich, got advantage, but majority of section of society, they had stayed out of this particular jobless growth. Now, article says this particular thing, that when we talk about China, we find this particular thing, that China has lifted the masses from poverty. Large number of people, they have come out of poverty. And today we see that the China is called as the factory of the world. China is called as the factory of the world. Now, if we see, or if we analyze the China, we find this particular thing, that China, what it did, China was also an agrarian economy. And from agrarian economy, they started focusing on developing their manufacturing sector. They focused on manufacturing sector. Today, we find that China is also becoming the hub of very high-end services in machine-to-machine communication, in artificial intelligence, in semiconductors. China is a major contributor. Now, guys, when we talk about India, what India did, India just after the independence, rather than focusing on manufacturing sector, started focusing on technology. For example, Indian Institute of Technology, IITs were developed. Okay, and we find this particular thing, that today what has happened, India's a software industry, it has become globally competitive. But question that comes here is that this India's software industry is employing very handful people, very few people. Okay, now understand this particular thing, guys, that what happened, high-end skills, they have generated jobs, high-paying jobs, but they have generated job for few people. Large number of enough jobs, decent jobs for the masses have not been created. Now, understand this particular thing, guys, that when we talk about economic growth, economic development, there is a particular process through which the growth and development will happen. Understand this particular thing, that suppose there is this one person. Now, this particular person is doing a type of a job in which a lot of application of skill is not there, is doing a kind of a menial job. Now what will happen, this particular person needs to transition to some another job. So obviously person needs to have skill. Now for the skill, what the person can do, person can leave job, can learn new skill, and after learning that skill can switch to high paying jobs. But often that is not possible. Person has to transition to other job, but at the same time he cannot leave the present job because survival will become difficult. So basically what can be done, so a person can switch to the job which is related to the existing job that was there, and a marginal skill development is needed. For example, guys, if a person is doing agriculture, directly shifting to software engineering is not possible for this person. If the person from agriculture directly move to the shift software, he or she need to do a 4-year degree, need to take some training and all such kind of a thing. But sometimes it is not possible. So what can do, a person from agriculture can move to food processing industry. Now food processing industry and agriculture sector, there are certain cross skills that are also used. Okay, little bit skill development had happened and a person had moved here. Then from here a person can move to other aspect of manufacturing, and gradually they can move to the service sector. And this is the process which is practical for majority of masses. For majority of masses, this is the practical. Okay, guys, please tell me, is now stream clear to everyone? Yes or no? Yes, guys, is stream clear to everyone now? Please tell me. Yes, guys, please tell me, stream clear to everyone now? Yes or no?